I pledge allegiance to the flag and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God.
Let's talk a little bit about what citizenship is like in this networked age.
The internet has been the great democratizer.
There are voices that could have never been heard 20 years ago that now have an ability to impact our democracy in a way that would have never been possible.
We've introduced Pandora's box.
The internet and artificial intelligence, these are consequential changes in how we relate to the world around us and the institutions that we believe serve us.
Being a citizen is actually harder work in cyberspace.
Citizenship to me is the active participation of an individual in the organizing construct of social or political institutions in their community.
It sounds obvious to say, but citizenship is not an individualistic endeavor, and it's not supposed to be only internally focused. The ideal citizen will find a way to invite people who politically they disagree with into the political conversation because they realize that politics is not just about them. It's not just about what they need. It's about the community together. A citizen with a moral conscience will say no or yes to things that are against their personal interests because it is in line with what is beneficial for the community, in line with the common good.
The internet and internet portals make people feel and actually be more connected to decision makers and lower the barriers between people in positions of power and people who live far, far away from Washington, D.C., for example. But even more, that we now have information at our fingertips, we all need to exercise our duty of care to the democracy. People are realizing that I think we have taken some of our fundamental institutions of democracy for granted. I think there is an energy around not only federal but state and local governance as well.
We all are very much aware that we're going to be judged on our ability.
In a representative democracy, you don't choose to have political influence. You're invested in it just by virtue of being a citizen. In the modern era, there's sort of responsibilities as direct as ever, given the innovations that allow for really clear ways of input from the public into the political process.
Hundreds of thousands strong demonstrators today in Caracas.
The internet has broken down geographic barriers, has broken down traditional constructs of government and nationality in potentially very positive ways. It's also scary for people who run governments and who want to continue to maintain control over their geographic boundaries and citizens within that limitation. This is all hands on deck for not only democracy, but for citizenship in whatever structure you're operating in.
People who are scattered around the world in different locations may find themselves more bound together by their common interests than they are necessarily by their citizenship by country. Netizen is a wonderful term for that. If you're a netizen, anyone is a neighbor. I think it puts substantial obligations on the part of people who are heavily engaged in the online world. Because whatever you do and say can have a very material impact on a human being, you should feel responsible to think about what you're doing and what the impact is. I see us as having provided recipes for the infrastructure and the freedom to build and connect. Figuring out how people decide to take on board moral obligation is way beyond technology. This is a sociological question, it's not a technological one.
Our network allows a sort of feigned community, the ability to hint at personal understanding without the actual relationship being there. And it leads people to both strive for that connection through a form that will never lead us to the peaks of sort of human relationship.
U.S. officials say that they have no reason to believe the Russian cyber attacks will stop.
There are forces and interests that see those very communities building and are finding ways to manipulate them for their own purposes.
Well, Google has uncovered evidence that Russian operatives bought ads on YouTube, Gmail, and other platforms during the 2016 presidential election.
Certainly, the 2016 elections demonstrate this big hazard.
In politics, with false information being put out to promote these tribal controversies that take on a life of their own, even though they're not grounded in fact, but facts don't seem to matter when it confirms your own identity. It leads towards a sort of insulated, self-interested form of civic engagement. Technology can make us see out farther. It can help us see people that we would have never seen before. It can also close in our vision. It can also put the top on our conversations and lead to enclosed sort of thinking. But the ideal citizen in this age will be able to build up the sort of internal resources to transcend that.
Some of the companies and platforms are experimenting, and I mean that in a good way, with how to help people be exposed to more information without forcing them to recoil and burrow further into their own bias.
The search engines, like the ones that we run at Google and others, are not necessarily capable of distinguishing good quality and bad quality information. Someone can use a botnet or other mechanical mechanism to make it look as if lots of people believe that this is important information, even though it's just an algorithm running on a whole bunch of computers that somebody has gotten control over. When you get into an environment where anybody and everybody puts up a tweet or a page on Facebook, you now don't have as many clues about the quality of the information that you're encountering.
The challenge, I think, for all of us is to be both better consumers of information and also maybe discerning readers. And so I think we've got a huge road ahead of us in terms of media literacy and digital literacy for an informed electorate. I'm not sure AI is either necessary or unnecessary. I think it is inevitable.
Technology in the AI age has provided great capacity to create for the good.
We see the mechanisms doing extremely useful things, powerful things, dealing at scale that you and I couldn't handle on our own. Speech understanding has improved dramatically with the introduction of machine learning.
How many feet in a mile?
5,280 feet.
Think of the things that we've done with machine learning that help us identify various medical conditions. It is easy to imagine humans relying on computer-based analysis and decision in the belief that that's more accurate than any human being could do. Very deep machine learning mechanisms have also been shown to have brittleness in them. We have instances where the machine has tried to classify an image and they decide it's a cat or a dog or a kangaroo or something. But altering just a few pixels of the input image can cause the machine algorithm to announce it's a fire truck. Now, human beings make mistakes too, and so we should not allow ourselves to say that perfection is the only acceptable use of these kinds of algorithms, but always recognizing that the algorithms might in fact be either biased or brittle.
Embedded in not only the algorithm, but the architecture and the infrastructure of these systems are eventually the biases of the creators themselves. That's not an aha, that's not a great revelation, nor is it even a criticism. It is simply, and is, that we all come to the table with our worldview formed by who we are and where we've come from. Are these devices we are creating and embedding in our lives, are they serving all of our needs, and are they serving equality and democratic principles? Or are they embedding and reinforcing biases that we all have clung to for many years of our lives?
There can be a dehumanization that takes place when people are sort of boiled down to the data points that are available to decision makers.
For example, if you're trying to get a loan from a bank, it might have an algorithm that decides based on what it knows about you that you shouldn't get a loan because the algorithm thinks that you're not capable of repaying the loan.
So we're actually sort of creating profiles of people. And I'm not just talking about advertising, I'm talking about marketing. This has reached into medicine. I mean, this is modern life.
I think being steered by algorithms is not the best course for us. I think some of these algorithms can be useful as advice givers for really important life-determining decisions. I prefer to have human beings in the loop.
I think all citizens need to be educated, simply even knowing that the algorithm could have bias, or that this device that you're putting in your house might be collecting information about you and used to make judgments about you. We need more awareness about the consequences of what we are adopting in our daily lives.
The internet is getting bigger and bigger and more ubiquitous. That's the one thing that makes this network so unusual. It wasn't designed to do anything in particular.
I had wished that this online world would highlight for everyone how codependent we are on each other's actions. And I still hope it can draw people's attention to the consequences of their actions on others, not just in their own countries, but on the planet.
The potential, I think, for internet-enabled technologies to further democratic institutions of governance and the greater good is still unparalleled. The challenge is making sure that we all agree on what that greater good looks like.
It really depends on what appetites the people have, what they're most eager to say yes to, and what they're willing to say no to. I believe that people have been made sensitive to the conditions of their neighbors that they would have never had access to. But I do think there have been tremendous gains through technology of developing people's moral conscience.
The network does not force us to work together. It doesn't force us to reason together. It merely provides the potential to do that. We have to decide we want to do that.